Hi, I'm Kathy and welcome to Crafting with Kathy. Today's video is the first of 3 which will round out the series that we've been doing featuring the beautiful Versamagic chalk inks and the lovely soft effects that you can get with them. I've called this class Glamour Galore and it's featuring our beautiful ladies close-up stamps. So let's go meet our ladies. We have 3 at this stage. We have Greta, Ashley and Miranda. They were launched last year at the 2019 Picture to Page show at Sandown. Now for anyone who actually bought Greta at that show, we have done a little bit of a change with Greta. This was our original Greta, but she was a little bit larger than the other ladies, so she was going to be a bit dearer. So I've actually made her a touch smaller, and I wasn't so happy with the flower. Once I started working with her and stamping with it, I felt it wasn't the same style. So what we've done is changed her to a mini version of our little frangipani flower, and we've made her just a little bit smaller so that she fits in more with the other series and will be the same price. So with these ladies, we can create a gorgeous series of images, and we're going to be featuring a video on each of the ladies with different techniques with each, starting today with Ashley. Now the inks that we're going to be using are the Versamagic chalk inks. These are gorgeous soft inks, and these are the colours that I work with the most when I'm doing the ladies. So we've got Sahara Sand, which has a lovely skin tone, Pink Petunia for your blush and eye colour, and then Jumbo Java as a hair colour. However, there are options. Wheat for your foundation or base colour. Wheat will give you a really porcelain look. Thatch Straw will give you more of a golden skin tone. Although I found when I've been doing that one, I find I mix a bit of Thatch Straw with some Sahara Sand to get a very realistic skin tone. And you can also use Jumbo Java if you're wanting more chocolatey skin tones. So there's lots of variations, so we can create our ladies to look however we like. With our blusher colour and eye colour, eye warmth colour, we could also use Malted Mauve, which is another of my favourite colours. So that or Pink Petunia works really well. And then when it comes to hair colour, of course you can go more brownie tones with gingerbread. You could go more orangey tones with pumpkin spice, or more into your deeper auburn tones with red magic. Or as we'll do with one of our demos, later demos with using Greta, you can also use markers to do her hair black or shades of blacks and greys. Or as we're going to do to poor Miranda, you can do her hair in the funkiest, brightest colours that you like. Okay, now I store my ladies in a tin, and I've got them on sheets of acetate with their bits with them, and all the words that come in the sets I've got stored on a sheet as well. And of course we've got our lovely lid that we created with alcohol inks to decorate up this tin. Now with the words in the sets, I'm just going to bring a couple of packs back into shot here. Sorry Matthew, if you can grab another close-up for me. With the words that are in the sets, there's different words with each set, but I've done them in the same fonts. So that means that you can intermix. So we could be sending you glamorous wishes, whatever. So you can pick and mix and match from the 3 sets to create loads more sentiment phrases. And they're also done small so that they don't take up too much, because the ladies are fairly large, so they take up a fair bit of your card. So by doing the words fairly small, they can just tuck in a corner nice and neatly, but it also means you can put them on a ribbon banner or something, or a little die cut rectangle or something like that. It's loads of possibilities. So let's talk a little bit more about these chalk ink pads and why I use them for the ladies. 1, they're soft. The soft chalky finish makes it look lovely and velvety like skin tone. But the main reason is that they dry waterproof. So I can do my beautiful shading and blending of my skin tones, give it a quick, leave it to dry for a few minutes, or give it a quick heat set, and then I can start adding watercolours for hairstyles, for flowers, for extra eyeshadow, a bit of face painting, whatever we want to do with our watercolours, and the base colours aren't going to move. If I watercolour the skin tones, then when I'm adding in other bits, they're likely to move and blend and bleed in together. So that's why I love using the chalk inks as our base, because it then just stays as a solid base to then add our other colours to. So let's get started. So I've already got Ashley loaded onto my stamping platform with a bit of cardstock, and we're going to ink her up with the Versafine, which I'll put on the other side, Versafine Onyx Black. Now we could use the Onyx Black, we could use the Versafine Clear Nocturne, although it takes a few more minutes to dry. Or we could use the Catherine Pooler Black. Any of those will give a really nice black that dries to a waterproof finish. Now I want a really nice imprint with really dark black where her eyes are. So that's why using the stamping platform is great, because if I'm not happy with the colour, which I'm not 100% with her eyelashes and eyes, I can give her another bit of an inking, which I'll just focus it on that area, and then stamp again. And we should, all being well, have that in exactly the same place. Beautiful. So that gives us lovely dark eyes, which is exactly what we want. Give her a clean and put her back with her tin. Rightio. Now I'm going to give it a little bit of a go over with the heat gun, just because I want to make sure that it's totally dry before we start smudging colours on. So you certainly don't have to heat set them. I just want to make sure she's really, really dry. Now, a little tool that's going to make colouring of your ladies so much easier is to make a mask. And if you're careful the way you cut your mask out, you can actually, I usually make a couple of them for the ladies, but you can actually keep the face and use it as a mask, and then what we're using mostly for our colouring is the reverse of that. So what I've done is I've stamped her on a bit of paper and cut her out so that we can layer this on here, and then as we're doing with our colouring, it's not getting onto the background. You can also make one and just cut out her hair to make your colouring of your hair easier, again, so that you're not spilling over onto the background area. As you get skilled with your brushes, you may find that you don't need to use the, what am I saying? So you don't need to use the masks. I was thinking about grabbing this card as well at the same time I was talking. So this is one where I've done without using a mask, just by using the angle of the brush to not go over my edges. So it can be done quite easily and quickly, but certainly to give you confidence and to start off with, using a mask is a great tool. So it's what I'm going to demonstrate here. So we lay that over her, and I'm going to be using my number 10 or number 8 size Future brushes. Okay, so all covered there. The only thing is I don't always like the solid line that I get at the bottom there, so I'm just going to go very gently when I get to that bit. We'll start with Sahara Sand for our skin tone, and my Sahara Sand brush. So your number 10 brush is great for your larger areas, and then the number 8 for things like your blusher, your pinks. And I'm just going to start off on my scrap paper and then just shade on. Now it's better to go less rather than more to start with. You can always add a bit more in. And as I'm going to be doing her hair a darker colour, I don't mind getting it onto the hair. Let's go up this side a bit. So off on the scrap. And then just shading on with circles. Once you've got yourself started, you can come right into the middle of the face. Doesn't hurt to leave it a little bit lighter around where you'd like a little bit of highlight on her cheekbones. So I'm going to shade in more below the eyes, but not getting right up onto those cheekbones. We do need some up the centre of her eyes. Now we're going to come in and do across her forehead. So it doesn't look, when you're first starting, it doesn't actually look like much is actually happening, but it is. A little bit. Okay, now if I just lift the mask away just for you to see, you can see now if we look with the background card, how we've got quite a bit of colour there on her. I'm just going to shade out that base bit at the neck a little bit. Of course, if you do get a solid line and you're not happy with it, that's where you can add in some stickles or pearls or something, give her a necklace, or we could use where we're going to put our ribbon greeting across, we could put it across at that point if we wanted to. You may not mind that line. Sometimes I don't. I've got it stronger there and then it goes to softer, so I actually don't mind it this time. Or I could actually cut my mask a lot bigger. That would make sense too, wouldn't it? Cut it out a little bit deeper there and just finish my shading there. That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's get this positioned again. And we're ready to start putting some blusher on it. So I'm going to switch to Pink Petunia. And switch to a number 8 size brush. Now I do tend to have separate brushes for my chalk inks to what I use for my regular dye inks, just because it's a different type of ink. Your chalk inks are a pigment, so it's a heavier ink. It doesn't matter if you do mix and match, but if you are, when you've finished using your chalk inks, I would give them a wipe out on a damp cloth and then on a dry cloth just to clean that pigment off before you go back to using your brushes with your dye ink. So circle on your scrap. You do want to be reasonably delicate with the blusher, particularly on this side. You can also add a little bit around her hairline if you want to. Just give her a little bit of warmth there. So on this side, off on the scrap. Now if you want her blusher to be more dramatic, because of the way that you can actually press your brushes down and get a more solid line, I'm just going to spin her around so that I can get the brush at a good angle for me for doing this. So pick up a bit of ink. Now you always just ink the brushes on the very end of the brush. So I could actually place this, just take off if there's any excess there, place it under her ear. And do a more dramatic blush shape if you want to. Or you can just keep it all very soft and circly. Now I'm also going to come in and just give a little bit of a dusting of this colour over her eyes. Again, putting a bit of pressure on the brush so that I'm getting a sharper edge is what I'm trying to say. A sharper edge close to the edge of her eye, and the brush is naturally blending it off at this point. So ink the end of the brush. This is where it's actually good to have that mask back in again, just doing the eye. So by putting pressure on the brush, it means I'm getting a crisper edge close to her eye. Now the other thing that we can use to apply a little bit of eyeshadow is actually an eyeshadow applicator. And I'm going to put a little bit of brown in there. So let's grab our Jumbo Java. Now I could do all the, if you don't like the idea of doing any colouring on there with a brush this size, you can certainly use the eyeshadow applicator. So I'll start off with the pink. I'm just going to throw my lids everywhere I think today. That seems to be what sort of day it is. Okay, so we're going to pick up, again, just put the ink on the tip of the applicator like you do the tip of your brush. Because that way you've got all this soft area will help to do your blending that hasn't got ink on it. If you ink up the whole thing, you're going to just get ink going from here to here solidly. If we ink up the end, then as we put this down, I find that just a back and forward motion works the best, or dragging it up. But I'm actually using this part is doing the blending for me. Just smoothing it out a bit. Now come in with the brown, with the Jumbo Java. Again, just inking on the end, and we're actually going to give her some smoky colour underneath her eyes. I do have to turn the card around so I can get that tip of the applicator right close to her eye. And just drag it out a little bit. So just like putting on your own eyeshadow. Ink the very tip of it, touch it under her eye, just drag it down or wiggle back and forward. Let's add some more depth in around her eyes there. So don't be tempted to try and add too much colour, because it'll get out of hand and you'll get lines. Always go a little bit and build it up slowly. You can see we're creating lovely smoky eyes there. Now, if we wanted to, while we're going with that Sahara Sand, we could add some more contour areas into our face. Let me go back to my Sahara Sand and Sahara Sand brush. Lids in all directions. Let's cover up Jumbo Java while we're doing this one. Okay, Sahara Sand brush. So if we wanted to, I'm taking off some of the excess. If we wanted to, I could actually add some extra contouring down the sides of her nose. We could also add more like under her bottom lip. So you can actually create more to the face if you're wanting to. We give her a hollow at the temples a bit if we wanted to. So you can actually create more 3D to the face if you want to play around with that. Now let's quickly do some hair for her. And I think I might do a little bit of Jumbo Java. So again, we could do it just freehand, or the easy way is we pop the mask on that we've created. Pick up some Jumbo Java just on the end of the brush. Make sure I don't move my mask when I go to get started. Okay, and off we go. This is certainly a very quick way of doing it. Now, I don't even mind if I get this a little bit patchy, because hair has texture. So we can actually really just stomp this on. I can tell you, if I'm doing it without the mask, I'm a lot more careful with it. So it is quicker with the mask. Slip our mask out. Oh my goodness, doesn't it look fabulous straight away? Now we could add some more depth to that either with a lot of you have worked with these smaller brushes when we've been doing our blended scenes, or again with the small eyeshadow applicator, if I could find where I'd just thrown that on the table. So I'll use the brush. So just inking the end of it, the same as we always do with our bigger brushes, ink the end, and then look for some areas where there would be some shadows. So to give us some light and dark areas. And this again will help our piece look a little bit more three-dimensional. I was going to say realistic, but she's not really realistic. She's too glamorous for that. So you just add some extra bits in there to give us some shadows. And if we wanted to, if we thought that was finishing too solid, we could always just shade out a little bit of extra colour with this brush just to soften those edges a bit. Okay, got to keep going though, because otherwise I'll just get distracted with doing more and more colouring and not get onto the next bit. Okay, so let's move our chalk inks out of the way. So this, we've built up our base. Now we give this a bit of a dry with our heat gun. Doesn't need to be heat set. It could just be left to sit for a while and it would be fine. But I want it to be really dry before I do my next stages. So we're giving it a good dry over the whole card. Okay, before I do anything that's going to be wet, let's actually do a little bit of background shading on this. So I'm going to come back with that Jumbo Java again. Pick it up on our number, what have I got here, number 10 brush, and just smudge around the edges of the card. To me, this just finishes your card off, just to add this bit of shading. And we're also going to add a little bit of stamping into this one as well, background stamping. Also, when we layer on our little ribbon with our word on it, because it's the same colour as the card that we've used, I've done both out of our cotton blend cardstock. When I layer the ribbon over, it's going to stand out because it'll be over the top of this brown shading. Now, if you're not confident with your shading, start off just with circles. I'm a bit impatient, so I find the smudging works nice and quickly. Now let's grab firstly our Fleur de Lis stamp. I'm just going to ink that up on the same ink pad, but then I'm actually just going to stamp it off on my scrap once. And we're just going to stamp a couple of these in just softly. We might have one over this side. And then come in with our leaf swirl. It's a gorgeous swirly stamp. Should turn that round so it's the way that you can see it, shouldn't I? This time I'm not going to stamp off, we'll leave it full strength. Using different parts of the stamp. And a little bit just across the bottom. Okay. So now we're starting to look like a card, aren't we? Okay, now to apply colour to her eyes and her lips, I'm going to use our Pentel brush pens. And I'm just thinking what colours are going to look beautiful on her. Let's, for her lips, give her some pinks with a little bit of purple just to deepen them. And I also have a Aquash Fine standing by just to blend these out. In fact, we could just try her lips just in pink. So I'll pop a little bit of colour on, and then I can use my Aquash just to soften that out. It does look good if you actually get some light to shade happening, particularly with the lips, but also with the eyes. And these pens just dissolve so easily, but they've got that lovely sharp nib so I can get right to the edge of the stamped image. Of course, you could use watercolour paints. We could be painting with inks. I'm going to leave them like that, leave them nice and soft. We'll go more dramatic with our other ladies. Now, let's give her some turquoise eyes, I think. Or green. Let's go green. Okay. So leave it stronger in some areas and go to lighter in others. Let's just add a little bit more at the base there. Let it be stronger there. I find if you've got the lovely soft chalk colours and then you're using something like violet, turquoise or green for the eyes, or even the soft like the sky blue, it just makes the eyes stand out so much. So I'm just going back between adding a bit more colour and then just dabbing really gently with the brush just to blend that out. And I'm sure the wonderful Matthew got nice and close on that. Thank you. Okay, now that would be fine just like that. But what we can also do on this version, I've actually stamped a little earring there, which is actually the dropper that comes with the Sun Mandala set. And it can be used as a little earring. I've then popped a little bit of the glisten stickles over the top of it. And then I've put glossy accents over the lips, eyes and the earring, which just really makes them pop. So with the glossy accents, we can just add a little bit. Try not to get a bubble. Just give it a bit of a squeeze out first, make sure I haven't got a bubble there. And I do make sure when I'm doing it on the eyes that I do it over the black part of the eyes as well, so it's the whole eye wall is standing out. Okay, then we could add some glitter along her eyelids if we wanted those to shine a bit more. We could also add in something like liquid pearls for some earrings. Let me just grab a pearls colour. What if I grab Marigold? That'll look great. So give that a little squeeze, make sure it's running beautifully. So we could just do one little spot there, just a really subtle earring, or you could actually do a chain of them. Just making sure I'm working parallel with the edge of the card, or else it's going to look like her earrings curving around at an odd angle. So So there I've done a slightly bigger drop and then smaller drops as they come down. So hopefully that's got you thinking, oh, I could do this and I could do that, because that's what you can do with our ladies. So that's just building out. Oh, this one is just a different tone too. This is where I use the wheat as the skin tone rather than this one being the Sahara Sand. So you can see this is quite a porcelain look, whereas this is she's got a healthy tan. And as I said, we can then go into using some of the other colours if we want some deeper skin tones as well. So doesn't that look fabulous with that little bit of glossy accents on there, just picking out those eyes and lips. And, oh, I haven't done our ribbon. Oh, sorry, we're nearly out of time and I haven't done the rest of our stamping. So let me grab whatever word we want. Let's go with glamorous because we're Glamour Galore. And I was going to be very good and put this in the stamping platform, and now I've been talking too much and we're running out of time. So I'm just going to freehand it. Now we could use the chalk inks as well, and I think because I've done this one so soft I will, but quite often this is where I might change to using something like the Versafine inks, which give a really strong colour. But for this one we've done such a delicate card, let's just stick to our softer inks. Press down nice and evenly. And we'll just have a look at where that's going to be before we stamp in the rest of our greeting. In fact, we might even put it into place. Let me have a look where I think it might go. It could go down low. Wipe it a little bit higher. If I do it down low, I've got room to fit in some other words around it. Just take off the backing tape. I'm just watching that I've got it reasonably parallel with the bottom of the card. Now I would like to use have a and day. These stamps are very, very little. And just ink up with just little taps. But it's a nice combination of fonts with the small words in the capitals and then our other words in a lovely flowing script. If you're not sure with your stamp, just stamp it off on your scrap paper if you're not sure that it's up the right way or that you've inked it enough. Have a glamorous day. There we go, there's our finished card. Let's move it forward onto the black so Matthew can get in nice and close without all the distractions of my background smudging paper. And he's just gonna do a beautiful pan of that, beautiful. So that's the first of this one. So we will be doing a couple of other videos, one with Miranda and one with Greta, in which we'll have some fun and show some different things that you can do with them. But that gives us our lovely soft introduction one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you really want to have a play with our ladies and these gorgeous chalk inks. And we'll catch you next time for Crafting with Kathy.